Today, I will show you how to paint a sunflower field with watercolor paint. Before we begin, we will need our two watercolor containers, one for dirty water and one for clean. Watercolor paper, paintbrushes, a pencil, eraser, watercolors, cloth, and white gouache, which is optional. I will start by lightly drawing a circle in the top half of my paper, leaving about 6 cm of space on top. Remember to always draw lightly. If we press on too hard on the paper, it will become very obvious even after painting on top. The next step is to paint the sunflower petals. Before we paint, we will need two colors. Mix a yellow and orange color. This circle will be a guide for our flower petals to go around. Start by painting a leaf-like shape with the yellow, and while the paint is still wet, add a little bit of orange to the start of the petal. Remember to always wash your brush between each petal. For petals that are overlapping like this, I use orange to add shadow on the side. Once I've colored most of the petals and is left with small gaps in between, I will mix a darker orange to fill in the rest of the petals. Once the petals are dry, I will wash and dry my brush before creating a wet on wet effect in the middle of the sunflower. Here I'm adding water on the inside of the circle only. Before the paint is dry, I will use a brown color to add small dots like this around the circle and in the middle as well. Once the circle is dry, I mix a dark brown color and I'm adding small dots on the brown parts. This will be the sunflower seeds. And this part is optional, but if you have any white acrylic paint or gouache, you can add tiny white dots in the middle of the sunflower like this. Next, we will use a pencil and lightly draw the stem of the flower all the way down to the bottom of the page. Here I am drawing the leaves as well. After I'm done with the leaves, I will erase the parts I do not want and paint the stem green. With the same color, I fill in the leaves as well. I used a darker green to paint in the veins of the leaves. And remember to wash and dry your brushes after painting each leaf. Before I paint in the background, I will draw a straight line behind the sunflower as a guide. The top half will be the sky, and we will be using a wet on wet technique. I use clean water to wet the top half of the paper, carefully so I don't get any on my sunflower. Then I am going to dab on a light blue color. I left some empty space which will be the clouds. After washing and drying my brush, I will add some smaller sunflowers behind the bigger one. You can add as many sunflowers as you want, but make sure to add some orange on the leaves as well. After the sunflowers are completely dry, I will fill up the rest of the space with a light green color. And while the paint is still wet, you can add some dark green spots in the bottom half of the page like this. This will add some depth into your painting and make it look more 3D. In the sunflowers, paint in the middle of the sunflower with a dark brown. Now I am doing some final touch up to the leaves by adding more details. And we are done!